Yeah, good morning and welcome once again to this class. Today we'll be talking about CSS layouts, and we have used some of them in the previous class, but I need to explain in depthly. We have to go in depthly into it because CSS layouts are one of the fundamentals which you are going to be using across all your pages. Our HTML, when you're building an HTML page, basically what you have to do is all your code are stacked one after the other. They are one, two, they are following each other. Let me use that word. They are following each other. At the point of you now following each other, at some point you want to change the visual orientation. You want to allow some of them to be on the right and some of them to be on the left. So there are three kind of CSS layouts, which include floats. Sorry, just a minute, please. Sorry, please, can you confirm you can see my screen? Please, what can you see on my screen?
Yeah, I can see your VS Code now.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. So I'm just making explanation before we go into the code. In the last class, we made use of Flexbox, but I didn't give you guys the in-depth analysis. For Flexbox, I was making mention of the three type of CSS layouts we have. We have float, which is now obsolete. You can't see any modern day browser. Like let me say from 2021 to date, or 2015 to date using float, because float is now off the hook. Float, when you are using float, you have to write over like 10 lines of code just to achieve one thing. So float, you can't see float in any code base. So that is why we are not going in depthly into it. So the major ones we'll be looking at is Flexbox and Grid. For Flexbox is a one-dimensional design system. It's a one-dimensional layout. Okay. Flexbox in the sense that you only have one way. If you say the default way our HTML is being written is in a column format, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is they are one after each other. But when you are using Flexbox takes everything side by side, and there are only three syntax you need. There is only one syntax you need for that, which is display flex. Let me show you that now. Okay, I will use our navigation for example to explain that. So at this point we have, confirm you can see my screen. Yeah, so you can see that what everything we have right here is that our navigation is, you have the logo first, you have the navigation link second, and you have the enroll now button, all stacked across each other. That is, they are lined after each other. So with Flexbox, what Flexbox does is you make it one dimension. With this kind of layout now, you have a three-dimension layout, which is everything is stacked over each other. But with Flexbox, what you just do is with a syntax called display flex. Okay, with a syntax called display flex, you can see everything are all side by side. And one other thing we have to make mention of is that the way they are all side by side, there are ways you have to give it a margin and padding. Instead of you giving it a margin left of 10 pixels so that everything are going to be aligned to the center, what you just have to do, there is a syntax in Flexbox which is justify content. I would explain the three kind of justified content we have. The first one is space around, space between. What space between does is that it gives it a space, an equal space in between each element. So you can see this, which is equal space across each element. That means if you want to measure the space in between the logo and the navigate and the home navigation, they are all the same thing. And if you want to measure the space in between the how it works and the button, are all the same thing. And you can, if you look at this properly, you can see that our buttons are not aligned properly. Our navigations are not aligned properly because the enroll now button is actually at the top, the navigation link is in the middle, and also the logo is standing on its own. So there is a syntax called align item. Once you see align item, align item center, which is you are telling everything that it should be aligned on a straight line. If you look at it now, you can see that all our navigation are all aligned on one straight line, making sure that no one is taller than each other, or no one is above or that one is below. That is basically what the align center does. It brings all items directly to the center of the page. Are we all following? So let's look at other using Flexbox. Flexbox is to create a layout which automatically adjusts the width and the height and order the element to fit the available space. It simplifies the process of creating complex layouts. Yeah, every layout are complex. You will see some design that they are so complex, and the next thing you have to do is either use grid or Flexbox. And Flexbox is one of the most popular way of display of making one-dimensional layouts. Are we all following? If you have any question, just unmute, just raise up your hand and you're going to be unmuted. I won't be saying this over and over again. So I will just run through some key points of Flexbox, which include the main idea behind Flexbox is that the empty space inside a container element is automatically divided into the children elements. Yeah, Gabriel, unmute and speak.
Hello, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank for all the session, the insightful, and some other things.
Kindly go straight to the point.
Really very good. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I want to really throw a more light about the Align Center you just explained now.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Yeah. So for the Align Center, this is what the Align Center does. If you look at it right now, without the Align Center, you can see that. Let's comment out this line of code. With this Align Center, you can see that everything. Let me use this. You can see that the logo is right standing all alone. The navigation link is also standing on its own, which is aligned to the center. But look at our enroll now button. You can see the enroll now is occupying the space, the total space from the top to the bottom. So, and you don't want that to happen. The next thing you just have to do is you want everything to occupy the same width and the same height. So that's what the align center does. Align item center. That is what it does. It brings everything to the center, making everything be on a straight line. Do you understand that? Just respond to the chat box if you understand that. Do you understand my explanation? Wisdom, your question says, please, why do you need to use padding? Why do you need to use padding? Come in, I can't see your question properly. Okay. We are going to, why do you need to use padding for the navigation? Because margin will definitely give it space outside. Okay, I mentioned in the last class that margin and padding are two different things. A margin is a space outside an element, and while padding is the space inside an element. Wisdom, do you get that? A margin is a padding outside an element, and a padding is a margin inside an element. There's when I use the illustration of a building. When you are building a house, you have a fence around it. You have a fence around it. The spaces outside the fence are called margin, while the spaces inside the fence, where you use as your walkway to the right or to the left, to the front and to the back, are called the padding. Do you understand that, Wisdom? Wisdom, do you understand that? Wisdom. Okay, that's perfect. Stephen, how do you highlight that? I'm using as you know, I'm using a Google Chrome extension. So it's not like a coding stuff. It's just a VS Code extension which I have, and I mentioned it in the last one, which is pesticide. Check on your Google Chrome extension, and you will search for pesticide. You get it there. So that is. So let's move on. So I made mention that there are also other forms of Flexbox makes it easy to align items from one end to another inside the parent container, either horizontally or vertically. Also, Flexbox solves a common problem, which is vertically aligning items and creating equal height for each item. Are we clear on that? Does anyone have any question? There's no question. Okay, so there are ways of you justifying items. I made mention of space between. There's something called space around. If we use space around, let's use space around. Space around. This is going to give it equal space around each element. So you can see this now. You can see this now. If the space, there's a space on the right hand side of our logo. The space on the right hand side and inside the logo is also the same space that is at the end between the logo and the button. And also the space inside it are also the same. When you say space around, it gives it equal space both on the right and on the left hand side of each element that is inside that particular div. Do you understand the concept of space around? So let's move forward. There is also another one called space evenly, which is going to give it even space across board, space evenly, which is this. You can see that the space are even. That means if you are going to calculate this space, if you can measure it, the space on this right hand side behind the logo is the same as the space inside the logo. Inside the logo, the space between the logo, the space between the navigation link and the arrow now button are all the same thing. That means the spaces around it are all the same space, and no one is equal to it, and no one is greater than each other. Do we understand that? Hilary, your hand was raised. Do you have a question? Hilary, your hand was raised. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. I tried replicating our code yesterday. I don't know. I was actually forgetting the CSS names. How is there any way to always remember, or because I have to go back to the videos to just like watch and replicate? So is there any best way to keep these stuffs in our memories?
Well, the only way you can keep stuff in the memory is by continuous practicing. There's no crime in always going back to your code, to a video to go and watch it all over and over again, because that's what gives you muscle memory. At every point in time, there is going to be a point. Even I, with the number of years I've been writing program, I've been coding, I still forget some basic stuff, which I still have to go back over and over again. There's no crime in going back to documentations, or there's no crime going back to documentation to read what you are about, what you want to do. Is not, it does not only gives you, it does not only enhances your memory, it also makes you that okay, the next time you want to make use of it, it's actually easier for you to do it, because most times you don't even need to write them down. You don't necessarily need to write them down. I don't write down most of what I'm doing. I just, once I see the design, I have a mental idea of what I want to do. Okay, I know these ones are side by side. That is the analogy I use. I say these ones are side by side. What is the next thing I have to do to it? I have to. The next thing I know how to do is either I use a grid or a flex. So by the time I want to make, if I want to make a one-dimensional design, I use a flex. If I want to use a multi-dimensional design, I use a grid. That is, it's just something that comes with you a long time. Once you are practicing, you have the memory about it. So, Orolowa, you have a question. Unmute your mic and speak, Orolowa.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
My question is this: like, can you please explain like the difference between using percentage and pixels?
Okay.
Like, for instance, now if you want to like set margins.
In our next class, there are some of the things we'll be talking about, which is measurement in CSS. There are different kinds of measurement in CSS, from margin, padding, centimeter, any kind of measurement you can think of. They are all in CSS. So in the next class, we'll be talking about measurement in CSS. So Hilary, unmute yourself and speak. Hilary. Hilary.
Okay, sir. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So while I was recreating the stuff, my body margin wasn't working. So I guess I have to remove that. I've forgotten that hash. Then margin 0. We have to remove it for us to put in new margin number.
Yeah, I made mention of it that whenever you are, that on your browser, there are default margin and padding. So that the best thing you have to do is remove every default margin and padding which is on your user's browser, which is you doing a global reset. And once you have done the global reset, you can now, without doing the global reset, you can still add your own margin and padding. But it's just that it won't fit the particular margin and padding you want to. Okay, probably there's a 16 pixel margin on your user screen, and you're now adding another 16 pixel margin to that image. That means you're having that 16 plus 16, that is 32. You're having 32
Yes.
pixel margin.
So that's what I'm saying. When I put the global reset, I was adding margin to my body and to my nav. It wasn't reflecting. So I removed the global reset and I added padding, then it reflected.
No, you're not right. You're not doing it properly. Probably, the moment you had a global reset, you have removed all default margin and padding. For you to be able to see your the padding and margin, you have to be probably add an higher percent and a more, probably you add like 20% margin and padding. So by the time we go into the CSS measurement, you will see relative measurement and absolute measurement. By Wednesday in the next class, that's what we'll be looking at. So let's don't jump the gun to that point. So let's come back to
And sorry, and also the paragraph that's on this kickstart join the CodeCamp. I did everything, but there's too much space between the H1 and the paragraph. I tried removing the margin, but the space is just there.
Don't worry. Maybe after the class, you can send me. You can just screenshot your code for me and send it to me so I can take a look at it.
Okay, okay, sir. All right, sir.
All right. Abdulatif, please, how can we get images? How can we get images? Abdulatif, if you have been in this class, you should have known how we get images. You can always go online and download images. Good morning. So is it possible to get your? Yeah, it's possible to get my source code, but uploading source code to Google Drive, I mostly forget. But the moment you leave this class, I'm going to upload this source code to GitHub and drop the link on the class channel. Okay, boss, please throw more light on how you I don't understand your question. Please throw more light on how the content is on the left because mine it does not go to the end, it's on the left. I don't understand your question. Probably you have to Wisdom, can you unmute and speak? Maybe you can explain your question.
Okay, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good morning. Yeah, I was working on the project yesterday, so I'll be stuck like this part. This kickstart and develop your tech career. That's this section. So I did it and I gave it a display of flex, which is the right thing for the text section and the image section. But my own image coming to this my image, that's a problem because it's not going to the end. You can see your image is at the end, but my own is close to the text, like it's close to this text.
That is
So
where,
that's the issue.
if you're actually following, I just explained that now. Let me now do it. We have on our main, let's go to our main. On our main here, we have display flex. You can see that my image and my text are side by side. So for me to give it a space between both of them, what I just need to do is to add a justify content space between, and it's going to move the image to the end, and there's going to be a space in between both of them. You understand now?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Gabriel, how can we differentiate between a flex and a grid? Well, both of them are simple layouts, are simply layouts, but I made mention that if you want to make a multi-dimensional layout, that's when you are going to use a grid. And for Flexbox is a one-dimensional layout. That means Flexbox is just one dimension, while grid is multi-dimension. By the time we get to grid, you would see what I mean by grid is multi-dimensional and Flexbox is one dimension. Paul, your question. Hope you understand that, Gabriel. Paul, your question.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sorry, I actually entered a bit late because of my network. I don't know. I was trying, but
You can always go back to the YouTube video and catch up.
yeah, I just need a clarification on that get started button. Yes, actually, everything on my own is exactly the same as your own, but I actually use, I don't know what you use to, whether it's an anchor element or it's just a text that you use it to make that button. That's my own question.
Well, I use the div actually. I just use the div. But supposedly it's supposed to be an anchor button because it's going to link to somewhere. Whenever you click a get start button, a get started button, it's probably going to take you to a dashboard, to a login screen or something. That is what the get started is for. But for now, I just made use of a text there, so that is
Okay.
fine.
Okay. That's what I use. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Yeah, so I just showed you before the question. I showed you the three main way you can display your elements by using space between, space around, space evenly. There's also justify content center. By you using no, let me do it on our main. Let's do it on our navigation. Let's do it on our navigation. By you doing justify content center, that means you are bringing all your elements to the center. Which is this. You can see all our elements are right in the center. By the time we do justify content center, which is normal. But now you can see everything are all modeled up. We want to give it a space. In Flexbox, what you use to give it a space is actually gap. You don't use a margin to give. You can actually use a margin, but the ideal way to give a margin in Flex while using Flex is called gap. You can make use of gap, which is what I'm going to do here. I'll just give it a gap. I'll just give it a gap of 10 pixels. You can see there is a space in between the logo and the arrow down button, but it does not really look much. Let's add more. Let me give it 30 pixels, and let's see. You can see when I give it 30 pixels, it's opened up more. So that is how you give an element space while using Flexbox. So now let me now show you another way to justify your item, which is you can also use FlexEnd. Let's try out FlexEnd. FlexEnd. Who can tell me what FlexEnd is going to do if you are following? Can anyone tell me what FlexEnd is going to do? What is FlexEnd going to do? Ezekiel, kindly unmute and speak.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please, the flex end, it will take the whole context to the right, to the end side.
Is it to the end? Is it to the right hand side, or is it going to bring it down a bit? If you say end, you can also take it end. End might be the right hand side. It might be below. You can bring it down a bit. Which one of them?
The right hand side.
Right hand side. Okay. Does anyone have any contrary opinion? That means everyone is following what Ezekiel said. There's nobody against what Ezekiel said. Is everyone agreeing to what Ezekiel said? Everyone is agreeing. Let's check it out. Let's see if Ezekiel is right or wrong. Okay, I've saved. Let's check it out. Okay, it takes it directly to the right hand side. So most times, this is actually used when the flex end is always used when you want to put a button to the extreme end and you don't want to use margin, because by the time you are using margin, you are going to probably give it a margin left or probably an higher percentage. So by the time you are giving it a margin of higher percentage, it goes, by the time it gets to the end, it's going to give your browser an overflow below it, and it's always a bad practice. It's always a bad practice that on your website there's always a scroll bar on the bottom. If you are, by the time, anytime I go to a website and I see a scroll, it gives me one kind of bad feeling, probably because I'm a developer and I don't like seeing overflow. It gives me some kind of bad feeling. I'm like, why is this? So sometimes for me to avoid that, I just make, most times my Chrome is always on either 80% or 85% or maximum of 90. The baseline is always 90. But by the time I see some scrolls on the screen, I reduce it to 80% just to fit properly. But it's not a good practice. It's not something you should always do. It's just for my own. It's just my own personal preference. So with flex end, it takes the element to the right hand side. Okay, I said that when you want to move an element, let's use this for example now. Let me show you this. Without using flex end, we have a justify content, we have displayed it flex. And the next thing we want to do is we want to move it to the right hand side. Without using flex end, we'll probably be doing something like this. Let's do a margin left. We'll probably be doing a margin left, and you give it something like 70 pixels. Let's give it 70 pixels and see. It's not going because we're using a flex. Margin left 70 pixels. Oh, I know why. Who can tell me why this is not working? Who can tell me why this is not working? Can anyone look at my code and tell me why this is not working? Hilary, unmute and speak. Why is this not working?
It's not working because you also have another margin of 30% left and right.
Yeah, that is simply the reason why. You can see I have a margin left here and a margin 5 pixel over here, so it's not going to work. So now let's comment out this particular one. Yeah, let's comment out this particular one and see. You can see it's moving, it has moved a bit to the left. So let's add more. So that is one of the major reasons you don't have to use margin. That's one of the major reasons you don't have to use margin. Margin, you will start adding a long, let's use 100 pixel. It might not move a bit. It just moves a little bit. So you keep adding more and more and more. And by the time you want to work on responsiveness, it gives you issue on the long run. So that's why Flexbox came into the picture and made things very easy. So with FlexEnd, everything just goes to the right-hand side of our page, which is what we have here. Hilary, do you still have a question, or your hand was raised previously?
Yes, sir. I have a question. Sir,
Okay.
what's the shortcut to convert a code to comments? You just type something and it turns to comment. Is there a shortcut?
Control and slash.
Control/.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Francisca, you have a question. Go ahead.
Morning, sir. My question is the margin left you were trying to explain now, like you said, is a bad practice. Is it just for the navigation items, or is it generally in your code? You shouldn't use it. Like, give a very high pixel to it.
Okay. Well, sometimes on some occasions you would definitely still need to use your margin left. But in a situation like this, where you are moving a div from one end of your screen to another, you would it's not a very good practice when you have flexbox. When you have easy tools, to use, is not a good practice. But you don't flex. One thing I want you to understand is that flex and grid does not overwrite what margin is going to do. There are some occasions you are still going to use margin. There are some occasions you are still going to use that. The best way to do it is just using flexbox. That is it. Francisca, do you understand? Francisca, do you understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do. Thank you.
All right. So flexbox does not override margin, and margin does not override flexbox. Both of them work hand in hand. So let's make this back to the center. Let's make it back justify content space between, which is what we have on our design. Space between. So we have our align item center, which the default is always horizontal. So the next thing we have here is aligning of item. Aligning of item can either be center to the beginning, to the end, or to the baseline. So we have done align item center, which is bringing everything to the center. Let's also use align item flex start. Flex start. Who can tell me what this is going to give us? You can see it took everything to the top. That is what flex start is going to do. It's going to take everything to the beginning, which is the top of your container, while flex end is going to bring it to the down part. Flex end is going to bring it down. It's going to bring it down. You can now see that your logo is at the top. Is like they are not all aligned on the same line. In some occasions, you will need this, but it's just particularly okay that everything is aligned to the center. So you can. There's also baseline. Baseline Baseline can also be used. This is this baseline. So baseline also works the same way as flex end. So you can either use baseline or flex end. Either one, it goes the same way. So let's return it back. There is now we can all see that these our items are together, like the flow is from left to right. You can also change the direction. You can also change the direction of your element, which is that the default way your flex does is that it moves everything to the right. Is it y-axis? Yeah, it takes everything to the y-axis, which is the main axis. We can always say from the left hand side to the right hand side of your screen is the main axis, while from the top of your screen to the bottom is your y-axis. From the top to the bottom is the cross axis, which is the x-axis. If it's just in simple terms, which is the mass you did in school. The mass you did in school, which is y-axis and x-axis. You don't necessarily need to know mass if you are writing HTML and CSS, but just those kind of things are just illustrations to make it stick to us. So the y-axis is the main axis, and the x-axis is the cross axis. Yeah, who is PC? Who is PC? PC, can you unmute yourself and speak? PC.
Okay, good morning, sir. I think the settings is my laptop. Sorry about that. I'm speaking.
Can you change your name from PC to your right name?
Can you
All right. Thank you. Kindly do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's continue. So, did anyone understand? Do you understand what I just made mention of the cross axis and the x axis? The cross axis and the main axis, rather. If you are confused, please kindly let me know, and I can take it over again. Okay, everyone understands. So then now, okay, Samson, you have a question. Unmute and speak, Samson.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Please, sir, I would appreciate it, sir, if you can go over the X and Y axis. Is it for the margin? I don't really get the relation.
Okay, all right. I was driving at something that I was trying to explain how flex works. When flex, you can see that I'm just using X and Y axis as an illustration, which is something we did in mass. I'm saying that from the left hand side of your screen to the right hand side of your screen is called the main axis, which can also be translated to y-axis. And while the top of your screen to the bottom part of your screen is the x-axis, which can also be called the cross axis. In your that's a term we use in flex while you're using the flex element. That means the default way our elements are being shown is on the cross axis. Why? By the time you use the display flex element, it goes to the main axis. That is taking the element from being a column to the left and right side. Do you understand that, Samson?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. Afolabi, you have a question, please. Can
Yes.
you
Okay, good morning, sir. Please, I would like to get it right. Like initially, you explained that the x-axis is the cross, while the y is the main, which is the bottom to the top to the bottom. But what you're explaining now to Samson, I guess, you said the x is the main, y is the cross. I really don't get it.
Sorry.
Okay, so which one is the correct one now?
I'm the one confusing it up. Let me not use x and y axis. Let me not use x and y axis. From
okay, top to bottom.
From the top to bottom is the cross axis. from the top to bottom is cross axis, while from the left to the right hand side of your screen is the main axis. Do you get that?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, that's it. From the top of your screen to the bottom of your screen is the cross axis, while from the left of your screen to the right of your screen is the main axis. So
All right,
I was
thank
just using the analogy of the graph we did in school as x and y axis, but I think that is confusing people a lot. So let's just use the main and the cross axis. So now in CSS, in Flexbox, we can always change the direction of our element, which is that the same way we have this element, we can make the button become the first thing on the right hand side here, which is something that we call row reverse. There's something called row reverse right here, which is this. Flex direction, which is you are changing the direction of your element. Flex direction, which is row reverse. Before I show you this, the default way a flex, I want you to get this, the default way a flex shows is row, which is taking everything from the way you stack over each other from a column format to a row format, which is making everything become side by side. So now when you do a row reverse, that means you are making it that, okay, this thing should not be aligned the way it is any longer. It should be that the button comes first, the navigation is still in the middle because it's the middle element, while the logo goes to the right hand side, while the button comes to the left hand side. That is what row reverse does. That means you are changing the position of your first and your last element. Do you understand? Do you understand the row reverse? Okay, there's no question with the row reverse, so let's continue. You can okay, there's a question in the chat box. Okay. Hilary, what's your question?
Okay, so I wanted to ask if there are like different, like say 4 or 5 items on it. Is it that the first will be the last, the second will be the
Let's
second to last,
let's
third will be
let's
the
let me show you that now. Let me add that. Let's go back to our main here. Let's add more images. Let's add more images. Slash images slash sponsor one of sponsor one as a close sponsor. So let's see it. You can see it has changed the orientation. That means before, if it's based on this, if it's based on the normal way it should be, let me comment out this one. You would see that you can see the CodeCamp came first. The CodeCamp logo came first. Our HNG logo came second, while the navigation bar came third, and our arrow now button came last. So now we now want to change the direction, making sure that these first two elements are at the back. That is when you do something called row reverse. That means you are changing the direction of your element, which is this. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We are just changing the direction. We have before the position of our element is CodeCamp is 1, HNG logo is 2, the navigation link is 3, and the arrow down button is 4. So by changing the direction, you now have this. You now have our arrow now button as 1, as the link as 2, and the HNG logo as 3, and the CodeCamp logo as 4. That is how it is now. Hilary, do you understand now? You are changing the position from first to fourth and fourth to first. Do you understand now, Hilary?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, good. So now, is there a question in the chat box? Paul, do you have any question?
Yeah, yes, sir.
What's your question?
I was just saying that for clarity, maybe you should try it on the main
Okay.
section so that you see that the picture will actually be clearer so that you understand.
Well, I think Hilary has gotten that already, but let's just try it out. Um, so you can see that our logo, our main, the image is now on the right and the text is now on the left. So we are just changing the position. So now we can also change it from a row to a column, which is flex direction. Let's take it back to the default way it is. Let's do this now. You can see the default way this element is that this div, this our text div now occupies a full width of it occupies the full width, while the image is also occupying another full width. But by the time we use a flex, we took everything side by side already. We made everything side by side. So now it's here, and by the time we are going to be making use of making something responsive, this is the major important part of Flexbox is working with responsiveness, because alongside when you are going to be working with responsiveness, this element, this center element, let's check out CodeCamp website. I think I have CodeCamp website here. I don't have it, but let's open it and see. Code.camp. So let's check it on a mobile screen. You can see on the mobile screen, the kickstart your tech career now is at the top, the image is in between, and the get start button is below it. Can you see? So it's also the same thing we are going to do right here. They use a flex here actually. That is why they don't. The simple thing the developer did here was just changing the flex direction from a flex row to a column, which is this. So instead of going back to your HTML code, instead of going back to your HTML and writing it all over again, the simple thing you will just do, which might look hard, is just changing the direction from flex direction row to column. By the time it's column, it makes the elements stack over each other, the default way it is from HTML. The default way it is on HTML. So the next thing we have to do here is, I hope you understand this flex column. Hope you are not confused. Can you explain? Can someone unmute and explain what I've explained just now if you are not confused? Can someone raise up your hand and explain what I just explained just now if they are not confused? Ezekiel, go ahead. Ezekiel, go ahead.
Hello, sir. So what we're doing was that, okay, you see, most times if we use flex, it will be in a row format. So if we want to do it in a mobile version, they use a colon. So we can just change the flex direction to colon, so it will stack over each other. So that's what you did, sir.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much. So, Falana, Falegon Benga, kindly unmute and speak.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, with what this person just said now, after you have said everything, but I just want to add to what he said concerning that aspect of the column. I think one of the things is that, like the mobile aspect of it that is talking about, that's the media query. Yeah, the media query and the media query. So like when
You're not yet in media query. You're not yet in media query. When we get to media query, we'll shed more light on that.
okay, after I wanted to more like say some because that
Samson, go ahead, please.
All right, sir. Sorry, I just noticed that while you use the mobile view for the current CodeCamp website, I noticed that the arrangement is in the order in such that I think that gets started is the last. But while we use the colon flex direction for the one you just did now, I noticed the arrangement is not in that order. The image was the last thing coming up. I don't know what could be
Yeah,
responsible for the difference.
is the way we aligned our own. You know, we made, if you check our code structure properly, you would see that the get start now button is inside this main container, which is what is this main content container, which is what is holding the key start and develop your tech career in tech, and also is the one holding the three of them. I think what they did on that was they made this button a div on its own, and they styled it separately. So even if they do it display flex, it come and they change. There are some manipulation they did behind it using flex. That is why it's like that. So hope you understand. Hope you understand. It's also
Yes, sir.
flex, but there is some kind of repositioning and the alignment, which is when we talk about positioning in CSS. When we talk about positioning in CSS, you understand better. Hilary, go ahead.
Okay, sir. Similar to what this question the guy just asked. Also, the join the um the paragraph wasn't in the mobile version.
The paragraph was not in the mobile. That means it was taken out. That's where responsive design. If you check something on a large screen, not all contents are going to be on a smaller screen. Some contents are going to be taken out. The simple thing that was done here was that they just hid the text, which is by doing this. They just wrote this. The developer wrote this rather. The p tag, where is it? Display hidden. Is it hidden or none? Hidden. Let's check it out. Okay, it's display none, not display hidden. It's display none. Display none. So you can see by the time I did display none, it is out of it. So when you're working on responsibility, and the moment you do display none, it goes away from the screen. Paul, or who asked that question? Are you clear now?
Yes, sir. I'm clear, but I don't know if this question is advanced. But um, I should put hidden now. The thing is not in the web version again. How are we going to put it if we want it to be only for the mobile version?
And when we get to media query, we are going to talk about that. When we get to
Okay, sir.
responsive
Okay.
design, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, Paul, you have a
Thank.
question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was only trying to ask you what extension did you use to
Someone has
get
dropped that in the chat box already.
what?
I said someone has dropped that in the chat box already. Mobile simulator.
Okay, let me check, please.
Yeah, so let's continue. So we have flex, we have done column reverse. There's also something we can also change the position, making it. We can also change the orientation that the image comes first, while flex direction, column reverse. We make the image come first, and the text comes second. Let's do this. Column reverse, And let's put back our text. Where do we have the text? Display none. Let's comment that out. Yeah, you can see now that our image came first. All these are done on the image container. All these are done on the image container. So there's a difference between an image container and the image, the item itself. Hilary, what's your question?
I'm sorry, sir. I don't know if I'm disturbing. Sir, we centralize item, but it's not centralized when it's on column.
Yeah, where is it? Where's our main? I didn't do align item center on this. I didn't do align item center on this. Can you see?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if the moment I do align item center on it, that is when it's going to be aligned to the center. You can see it is aligned to the center. So I hope everyone is clear with all what we just did just now. Are you clear with what we just did just now? Boluwatife, kindly go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, I want to ask. I've been having like network issues, and I know I should like wait for the YouTube video to drop so I can watch it. But I want to ask, like, this image that you like, I don't know whether you sliced it or the way you made it. I feel like you taught it already.
I didn't slash. I just copied. I just downloaded the image the way it is. I didn't do any CSS animation to it to get the
Oh,
image. I downloaded the image directly like this. So if you want to
okay, sir.
make an image like this, there are some CSS properties you can use, which is CSS polygon. You have to cut it into sizes that you want. So you can actually do with CSS, but I didn't do with CSS. I just downloaded the image like that. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So now let's move forward to what we can do on a flex item in itself. Let's now take a look at what we can do on a flex item itself. Okay. So now let's return this back to normal. Let's remove this flex direction. Let me check it. Yeah, we are back to the way it is. And also let me increase this one. Let me return this back to the way it is. Let me remove this and comment this out and take it back to the way it is. Now, section row. So we are back to what we have with this. So there is something we can actually do something on an element, which is the nav link. This is the container. I don't want you to confuse this. Let me the nav. If you look at our folder, our div alignment properly, you can see the nav is the one holding everything. And see that is the nav that is holding everything. So the nav link is the one inside. The nav link is now inside. So you can now do something like, okay, align item stretch start. Yeah, that's the first one. There is align item, no, not start. There's align self baseline. Let's try this out. Let's see. No, I can't do it there. I have to do it on a particular item, which is the li element. Control X, li element, because that is the element itself, nav item. I'm coming, just a second. Baseline, stretch. Let me use a simple another one to see. Stretch. Coming, please. Let me do this. this should work on a flex item actually, not on a flex container, but it seems not to be working. I will figure that out and inform us about that. Hope everyone is clear on flex. Is there any question on Flexbox? Does anyone have any question on using flex? Does anyone have any question on flex? Okay, is straight. Okay, Paul, you have a question. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, sir. I wanted to ask, if you insert an image and also like that our hero page now that is having text and image together. So and immediately you insert an image, the image will not automatically resize on that flex container. So is there a way that somebody can actually align or justify content, or are we going to use justify self, align self on each container on the flex, or are you just going to use normal justify content and align items?
I
Sorry,
don't think I understand your question. Can you
okay,
go and question it?
what I'm trying to say is that on that our hero page that is having kickstart stuff and also the image, there are two containers there, flex containers, right?
Okay, there's a flex container on this navigation link.
Yes, there's a flex container too on that kickstart and develop your career and that image. Those two containers there after the nav.
Yeah, there are two different containers. There are two different containers.
Good. So what I'm asking is that if I want to position only one of them, like I want to, okay, one of them should be on the flex start, one of them should be on the flex end. Can I do that one, or can I still be using justify content or justify self? I want to know the difference between justify self and justify content.
Justify self and justify content. Justify self. When you there's nothing like justify self. There's just justify content and align self. Those are the two things. Those ones are done on individual elements in a flex.
Okay, individual element on the flex, right?
Yes, individual
Okay, that's
element.
fine.
Justify
Okay.
content done on the container, which is the nav, which is this nav, which is the container that is holding it. If you now want to do align self, which you are interpreting as justify self, which is not justify self, it is align self. You have to do it on a particular element. Do you understand now, Paul?
Yes, I understand.
So let's go into that's all about Flexbox. We are going into grid at this point. So what's a grid? A grid is CSS grid is a set of CSS properties used. Oh, Francisco, there are still some questions. Okay, please go ahead. You have a question? Go ahead. Francisco, unmute and speak.
So, everything you did here now, can we call it Flexbox, like all these styles?
Yes, everything is Flexbox. Everything are all properties of Flexbox.
Like one part of CSS?
Yeah?
Is it like one part of CSS?
Yes, Flexbox is a section in CSS.
Okay. And what made it Flexbox is because you use display flex.
Yes, that's what makes it Flexbox. You understand?
Does it mean that if I don't use display flex and then just use other elements, is not Flexbox?
Yeah, it's not going to work because if now let's try this out now. Let's remove this flex. Let's remove this display flex from this part. This justify content cannot work because it's not a flex element. You can see. Justify content space between cannot work because it's not a flex element. So most of those elements works based on the display you are giving it. So the moment you give it a display flex, you are making use of flexbox property. So when I return this display flex back, is a flexbox property already. The display you are using determines the layout you are making use of in your CSS. Do you understand?
What if I don't use display at all?
Then how are you now going to decide which layout you want to use?
I think there are other selectors, right?
Other selectors, like which one do you want to use?
I don't know. I'm not saying.
That if you got me in my explanation at the beginning of the class, I said there are three different kind of layouts in CSS. Float, which is obsolete, which is no longer in use. Flex, flexbox, and grid. Flexbox is a one-dimensional layout, while CSS grid is a two to multi-dimensional layout. We can say it's used to build two-dimensional layouts. Do you understand now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
I
if you
get.
want to, the way this our main section is now, this is a one-dimension layout. This is a one-dimensional layout. There is no how. If we actually want to achieve this kind of layout without using flexbox, we will keep duplicating our code. Like we have to use on a particular element. We have to use margin left, margin right, and most times we are just duplicating ourselves. So those duplication is what flexbox has taken away from us, making us write shorter code to achieve the same thing. Do you understand now, Francisco?
Very clear. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. So now let's go to CSS grid. So let's have a div here. Let's have a div here and call it CSS grid div. The class name will be grid. We have a div here. Call it hello. Hello CodeCamp. That doesn't. Let me just give it different class name. Background color red. I'm using inline styling here because I want to show you what CSS grid does. And someone that is asking me what is inline, someone that did that. Most of you made this mistake in your tags. When I asked you to use inline styling, some of you were using internal styling, while some of you were using inline styling. Internal and inline are quite different. So this is inline styling I'm actually using. So the next one is background color green. Background color green. Let me copy so I don't have to duplicate myself. So C, that is golden rod, green, yes, golden rod. Let's use this. This should be purple. Purple. This should be pink. This should be pink. This should be lemon. Or let's just use light gray. So you can see now that. Can you see my screen? Confirm you can see what I have on my screen. Let me just give it an height. Let me give everything a height of 10%. I want to give it an height so that everyone can see it properly. So you don't have to strain your eyes on my screen. So 10% height, let's increase it to like 70. Control F. Oh, am I saving? It's saving, so why is it not reflecting? So let's just continue. I don't know why the height is not working. But so now let's now use CSS grid. So the way you even want to make a CSS grid is just the display property you are going to change. This is grid. Our class name is grid, and the next thing is display grid. Display grid is still going to be the same thing. It's still going to allow everything it's still going to be stacked over each other, same way as the way it is on the container, same way you have it on the top and on the left. Then we have something like this. Do you have any question here? Okay, I said yes, Siras. I said grid is a is not really like, will I say it's multi-dimensional? Yeah, the basic word is two-dimensional layout, but you can also use it because you can also use it to build multiple layouts. You can use a grid to build a multiple layout. So we can actually just say that it's a two-dimensional or multi-dimensional layout system. Yesirat, are you clear? Yesirat, are you clear? All right, that's good. So once you do your CSS grid and once you have your CSS grid, once you make your layout CSS grid, the next thing you just have to do is and now see, let's have it. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have your CSS grid. You now have there's something called grid template column. That is, want to put everything side by side. You do grid template column, which is auto. Let's give it auto. That's once you say auto, you can either let's specify the speed. Let me give it a 200 pixel, 200 pixel, 200 pixel, 200 pixel. So let's check it out. Why are you not working? What's going on here? Grid template column, CSS grid, div. Yeah, why is it not working? I'm coming, I'm trying to understand why it's not working. Grid template column, 200 pixel. Let me just give it auto and see. Auto. Let's check it out. Oh, what's going on here? The semicolon is missing. That does not matter because it does not really matter. Afolabi, kind of mute and speak while I figure this out.
Okay, so I was going to ask for the display grid. I want to know, does it have any effects on the browser? Like I'm not seeing it.
Yeah,
Did anything change?
It's supposed to change actually, but I don't know why it's not changing. It's supposed to move
No, I
to
don't mean
being its
the
normal.
grid template. So I mean the first display grid.
Yeah, that is where you are going
The
to
first
decide
item.
layout you are going to use. That's where you are going to decide which layout you are
Okay,
going
it
to use,
has
which
not
is
changed.
grid. Yeah, it does not change. I don't know. It should actually
Okay, so are you
change.
saving? Did you save?
Yeah, I'm actually saving. I'm saving.
All right.
Okay, you can see now. It's working. you can see that each one of them are now side by side, which is this. So let me now justify. Let me now give each one of them a space instead of an height. Let me give it a padding. Let me give it a padding instead. Let me give it a padding. Give it a padding. Sorry, let me give it a padding. Padding of 70 pixels is too much, so let me change this. 70% is too much. I'm coming. Give me a second. Let me.
What's up, Darius?
Yeah, yes, Sarah. Your hand is still raised. Do you still have a question?
Yes, sir. Yeah, well done, sir. I noticed that you used in these grid template columns, you use auto thrice. If we should use one, will it stay like
And
be
it's not going to work.
effective?
You have to decide. You have to decide how many boxes you want. If you can use it twice, you can say I used it once the other time and it didn't work.
It didn't work. Okay.
So you have to. If you use two, that means it's going to give you 2-column grid.
Okay. Okay.
So look at it. If I use 2 now, it's going to give you a 2-column grid.
Okay.
You can see I used 2. It gave me a 2-column grid.
Yeah. I think it's.
So if I use 3, it's going to give me a 3-column grid.
Okay.
Also.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. So you can see I have a 3-column grid right now. Boluwatife, unmute your mic and speak.
Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sir, I'm kind of like lost from the beginning of the grid stuff. Please, I can like just go through it again.
All right. I'm going to go through it again.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I made mention that for CSS, there are 2 kind of layout. There are 3 kind of layouts in CSS, which is flexbox, float, and grid. We have explained CSS flex. We have explained flexbox already, and this is CSS grid. CSS grid is a 2-dimensional layout. You can see now what I mean by 2-dimensional layout. The moment I had just one auto here, you can see everything are side by are still their normal size. But the moment I added 2, I made it. Let me, instead of using auto, let me just do 200 pixel, 200 pixel, 200 pixel. This is telling this. What I'm telling this is, give me a container that is 200 pixel of the same size. Just make audio container the same size, which is this. You can see 200 pixel. It has given me each box. This yellow, this box that is green, this box that is red. Everything are all 200 pixel. They are all the same size. Do you understand that, Boluwatife?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if you can now decide, okay, now when I used auto, it made everything fill the whole screen. So that's one of the benefits of CSS grid. With flex, I don't have this luxury. By the time I do display flex, everything just goes side by side. But with CSS grid, I can even have 3. I've made it a 3 column. I've made it 3 column already, which is this. Hope you understand now. Afola, Boluwatife, do you understand now? Do you understand the concept of grid and flexbox? Do you understand their differences?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand the difference now.
Okay. Samson, you have a question? Yeah, I can still put a gap. Mitchell, I can put a gap between both of them. That is me telling it I need a space amidst them. This is it. Gap of 10 pixel. There's going to be a gap there. You can see there's a gap there already. There's a gap. So instead of me using margin and padding, instead of me using margin, the way you give gap in between, the way you give a margin in Flexbox is gap. The same way you give a margin in grid is also gap. Yeah, Samson, kindly ask a question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Please, I want to ask, is it possible for us to have both grid display and flex display inside a container?
Well, it's not a good practice actually, but it's something that you might want to do. Okay, now for example, now let's say that it's something you can do. Let's say for example um the way we are kickstart and develop your tech career is a flex. You want to make it display side by side. Let me now do this. Let me do this so that you can see that it's actually possible. So let's bring this div here, Control X. Let's put it inside our main and comment out this picture. So you can see I am making use of both Flexbox. When I'm using Flexbox, I'm making both of them side by side. But for me to be able to achieve this, I am using Flexbox. Do you understand, Samson?
Yes, please, sir.
All right. Hilary, you have a question. Go ahead.
Okay, sir. First question. The grid, must it be equal? Can you put it 200, 500 pixel,
No,
700?
it's not compulsory it's equal, okay? It's not supposed to be equal. I can just make it, let me make this one 500. Let me make this one 500. This one 400, 1000 pixel. And this one 350. You can see they are all different. They are all different. Can you see the center one has 1000 pixel, while this one has 350 pixel. So can you see that, Hilary?
Yes,
So it's
sir.
not completely the same size. So you can make it of different sizes. So
Okay, sir.
what's your next question?
The next question is, how is this applicable? Can you give us an instance, like probably just a picture of how this stuff is applicable on a
Okay,
real
now
site? Trying to wrap it in my head. How we do with
you
this?
know when you go to some websites, you will see that they have some gallery images. When you have something like gallery image, when you have multiple images on a page, like yeah, multiple images, and you don't want to use Flexbox. And okay, let me see. Yeah, that's actually where you can actually use it most. Is on when you're trying to build a gallery image, where some images are going to be longer than each other, some are going to be bigger than each other. But with Flex, if you are using Flexbox, everything are going to be of the same size. But by the time you are using CSS Grid, you can actually tweak it that okay, let's make this 200 pixel. Let's bring it back to the normal size. Let's make it 200 pixel, 200 pixel. So now with this, it will get to a point that I should zoom. Yeah, something like an e-commerce website. Yeah, something like that. Something like an e-commerce website. Someone is asking me to zoom. Is it my screen or Mary Jo? Is it my screen? I should zoom in my screen, or you are making reference to something? Okay. Okay. Yeah, something like that. I meant if zoom might be a grid picture. Yeah, most of them. I think in the next class we are going to build a gallery layout with. We are going to build a gallery layout with CSS grid in the next class, alongside where we talk about CSS measurement. So I will show you how you can manipulate image. You can manipulate a grid. You can manipulate a grid with. You can manipulate an image rather with grid system. So, so is it possible to add border radius on your grid? Yes, it is possible to add border radius on my grid, but it's going to be on each particular element because I've not tried it before. Let me do border radius. Let me try border radius and see if it's going to work on everything 20 pixel. Let me check this out. It's not going to work. You have to set it on each particular element. I just added border radius to my grid and it's not working. But yeah, if I set it on a particular element, border radius work on particular element. If I set it on a particular element now, let me set it up on this, on the hello, border radius of 20 pixel. You can see our border radius, our hello has the border radius of 20 pixel. Can you see now, Emmanuel? You can't set a border radius on an entire grid, but you can set it on a particular element. The only way you can set this, okay, let's have a background color on our grid. A background color, let's use this blue. And if we now set a border radius here, we are going to have a border radius here. You can see we have a border radius here. And let's add a padding. Let's add a padding so we can see the border radius. Let's add a padding. Padding of 20 pixel. Yeah. Can you see this now? Isaac Emmanuel, can you see this? So it's only if you have a background image, a background color, or something at the background of your grid container. That's when you can add the border radius. But if you want to add it to a particular element, you have to add it to that particular element itself. Yeah, so this is time for question and answer. Does anyone have any question you want me to clarify on grid and flexbox? We are still going to go in the next class. We are going to go more into grid, but we have already finished flexbox. But in the next class, we are going to go more into grid, and in the next class, I just want you to prepare your mind ahead. We are going to be building a gallery with flexbox with CSS grid rather. We are going to be building a gallery with CSS grid, and we'll be talking about CSS measurements. So just have that at the back of your mind. Hilary, you have a question? Go ahead.
So please, can you come over on explaining the radius and this background with the padding? I didn't get it.
Okay. What I did was that Emmanuel asked if we can add a border radius to, excuse me, please. Thank you. Emmanuel asked if we could add a border radius to our element. And what I did was, since we could add a border radius to this, but we don't have, our background is white. Though the border radius is going to be there, but it's not going to show. So I added a blue background so that we can see the border radius. And if you want to add a border radius to a particular element, you have to add it on the element itself, not on the container holding the grid element. Do you understand that, Hilary? All right. Yeah, so we have come to the end of the class. Can we? Okay, Francisca, you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, just like the way you added that border radius to the individual elements. If this is like a project, do you have to use inline CSS to do that, or you just have to give all elements classes
No,
and
you have to write it in your CSS. I don't want to start having multiple classes. I don't want to write multiple classes. That is why I just give it. I just wrote my inline styling right there. I hope
okay.
you understand. Yeah.
So you can't even just use inline for something like that.
You can use inline, but it's not good practice. Your code has to be readable. That's why I don't want to use inline.
Okay. Okay.
As I've made mention, you can either use inline, internal, or external. But for readability sake, so that anyone that needs to come back to your code base will know that okay, this is just for CSS. This file is just everything about my CSS is inside my CSS file, and everything about HTML is inside my HTML. That's what this is for. So Steven, ask your question. Steven, can you go ahead and ask your question? John Paul Abraham, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, sir. Sorry, sir. I don't know. Can I see that? I want to make them to that your code.
Okay. Yeah. Can you move closer to your mic, John? Can you move closer?
Okay, sir. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly now.
Okay, that's the grid. Okay, sorry, the browser. I'm sorry, the browser, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so this is it.
Okay, this three hello CodeCamp hello, those three div. This is like because when you were writing on this thing, it was all arranged in six like they were straight. How would I put it? Like the div were just straight. They did not. They were not in flex blocks ahead. Flex like the row ahead. They were all in column. Yes, they were in column. So, but now, do you mean that the flex this in grid will make them all like the six? Six is in flex that in grid. They are supposed to be in six. This hello world CodeCamp, the three of them that supposed to be in six div like that. I don't know.
Okay, let me explain.
I don't
Let me reiterate back on my explanation.
Okay.
I said that if you get my explanation from the beginning, I said that Flexbox is a one-dimensional layout system in CSS, while CSS Grid is a two-dimensional layout. Two-dimensional layout. So now, if you can check out my code now, let me show you my code and let me try it again. If I do this, if I just make it grid, CSS grid, it does not make any difference. Everything are still stacked over each other. And if I use Flexbox, everything are going to be side by side each other. That is, I'm going to have 4 boxes, which are going to have 6 boxes, which are side by side.
Okay.
But with CSS grid, I can just do this. If I do this, I'm going to have 2-column grid. This is a 2-column grid. If I do this, if I had one more, and I had another one, you can see I am having a 4-column grid. So this is a 4-dimensional layout already. I'm already having 4-dimensional layouts.
Okay, sir.
That is the difference between Flexbox and CSS grid.
Okay, so can you make it?
Yeah.
Can you make it 6-dimensional? Let me see how can you do that? You want to make it 6-dimensional?
It's just the same thing. I had another one here. I had another one here.
Okay, I'm clear, sir. I'm clear. Thank you.
So that is it. Because of my space, that is why this is not occupying the full
understand. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So Ryan, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for the insight lecture. Just on the grid, can we have a row dimensional as well?
Row dimension. How do you mean by row dimension?
You mean this one is in column now?
Yeah.
So I want to translate it into the rows grid.
This, the way it is like this is in column. The row, okay, yeah, you can have it in row dimension. That means you're just going to change this from
You know,
grid
this is just
template column
this
to
4x2. This is 4x2 matrix. So it's now going to be 2x4 matrix.
let's try that out. There's something called grid template rules. Grid template rules. So yeah, you can see.
Okay.
Can see
Then
it.
add another one. Can we add another one?
Can we add another what? Another box?
Another column, making it 2x6 column matrix.
Well, the main, you don't necessarily need to be using row template row.
Oh,
Reason being that reason being that everything, if you want to do something like that, your CSS can you can actually just make use of grid template column and expand a particular element. Let's go back to what we have here. So now in the next class you also see it. If you want to make this now, you can, instead of you making use of grid template column, which might not give you the exact result of what you want, you can make this hello. You can span this hello from the first box to the next box underneath it. So it's going to occupy these two rows. In the next class, those are some of the things. That's when I said we are going to go in depth into CSS grid in the next class. Also, please do ask that question.
Rahim.
No, in the next class, I will show you the multiple ways you can change elements using CSS grid. That is why I said CSS grid is a two-dimension or a multi-dimensional layout system in CSS. Are you clear now, Rahim?
Yeah, I'm clear. I'm clear. Then sorry, sir. I have a little challenge on my cosant. The preview is not showing.
Have you downloaded Live Server?
Live server extension on it.
Yeah, go to your VS Code. There is an extension called Live Server.
No, I can get the preview on my VS Code. I'm talking about this sand code, cosant. Yeah,
Oh,
cosant.
probably after this class, just send me a message on Slack. I'll check it out for you.
Okay, okay, okay.
On
Thank
Discord,
you.
rather. On Slack.
Okay, on Discord, no problem. Thanks.
Yeah. Mon, Monaghan. I'm sorry for not pronouncing your name properly. Monaghan. I'm sorry. Can you just go
It's
ahead?
okay, sir. Hi, sir. I
Yeah.
just wanted
Sorry, can you
to,
give me the pronunciation once again?
it's in Tabi saying Monacheng.
Monaghan.
Cheng.
All right. Okay. Is there any? Do you have an English name? I can call you that.
I only have one name.
Oh. All right.
Yes. I
Go
just wanted to ask if can we please see the page in a mobile stimulator form to see if the grid changes or stays the same when it's in the mobile form.
Let me see. It stays the same because we are not styling it yet. We have not yet on mobile responsiveness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So by the time we go into mobile responsiveness, we'll definitely work on all that. Yeah. So Francisco, I have a question.
Yes, sir. So my question is on the tags, just a few clarification.
Okay, wait. Before you go ahead with that, I'm going to answer that last. You asked a question. Yeshiras, can you go ahead?
Yes, sir. I
Yeah. Go
noticed
ahead.
I tried to practice this grid template column. So I noticed that there is space in between I have two rows. So there is now space. The space between the rows are very large, and I didn't put
Did
it
you
in.
did you add a gap? Did you add a gap to it?
I didn't add a gap.
What did you add there?
I
No.
have a I added grid, I added display grid, then I added grid templates, columns, and I did the text aligned. I want my text to be in the middle. That was all.
No. After the just send me a picture of your code on Discord, and I will address that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to see it to know. I can't picture what you're talking about. So, Paul, kindly go ahead and speak before I answer Francisca.
Yes, thank you, sir, for today. You made mention of not using inline, like the inline styling was updated, but sorry, but you asked us to use inline.
Yeah, I purposely asked you guys to use inline styling for the purpose of the tags. It's for the purpose of the tags. That's why I asked you to use inline styling. Yeah, Francisca, go ahead and